Hi everybody, Old Hollywood Vintage Gal here, ready for another movie review. And today I want to talk about one of my personal favorites, The Miracle Worker. Came out in 1962, directed by Arthur Penn, who also did the stage play of The Miracle Worker. And it has the talents of Anne Bancroft as Annie Sullivan, Victor Jory as Captain Arthur Keller, Inga Swenson as Kate Keller, Andrew Prynne as James Keller, and a young Patty Duke as Helen. The major plot of the story is the Keller family has a little girl who is a mute and deaf child, and they are in desperate need to get her some help so that she can be able to communicate in a way that is normal for everybody else to understand what she means, but also is good for her since she has no idea how to communicate. And well, that's basically the major plot. They just basically need help. So I just want to talk about a little bit of the story for a little bit. The movie is great. The plot, the acting, everything in the film is really good. What I personally love is the acting. It's just, everybody does such a great job. Patty Duke really makes you believe that she is Helen Keller, and she just does a phenomenal job. Anne Bancroft also is really good as the naive, tough, but not experienced teacher. But she soon learns how to reach Helen, and Helen learns what she needs from her teacher. And they both have such great chemistry together. They both also did the stage play of The Miracle Worker. And they both have won Oscars for the film. I'm not sure if Patty won anything for the stage performance, but I think Anne Bancroft did win like a Tony or something for her stage performance. Let's see here. I want to talk about one of the scenes in the film. It's the breakfast scene. A lot of people have said that this scene has just tired everybody out just by watching it, and it's understandably so, because the scene is just so physically demanding, and they're both just crashing things, and Annie is just constantly picking up Helen, and Helen's just crawling over things. It's a really bizarre scene, but it's handled so well. And it's one moment in the movie that none of the remakes, in my opinion, have got right. The 1979 version is just with Melissa Gilbert and also with Patty Duke, it just didn't do the scene justice. And the Disney version was just, I don't know, this one just had that scene hands down. It was dramatic, bizarre, it was chaotic, it was everything you needed for that scene, and it was handled very well. I have a couple flaws and nitpicks with the movie. First off, it's the opening scene where they all find out that Helen is both blind and deaf, and the parents both go into a fanatic frenzy, and it's just so over the top, and it's just something I really don't care too much for. I really skipped the scene, actually, if I'm going to be honest here. I usually fast forward the scene. The other line I want to talk about was the line where Annie says, "I will touch you," after Helen pulls away from her when she's separated from her family. It's just, I don't know. I think they could have come up with a better line. The remake with Patty Duke and Melissa Gilbert also had that line, but the Disney version did not. And that was one thing that I think that movie did a little bit better. The film was both an instant success, both critical and moderate commercial. It won 5 Academy Awards for Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Director, and Adapted Screenplay, and Costume Design, black and white. The ceremony for Patty was definitely one in itself for movie history. Patty herself hated the dress that she was in. It also was a very sad night for her because both her parents were not present. It was just the Rosses and their dog, and it was very hard for her. It also has been rumored that she was only allowed to say thank you because the Rosses had told her that was all she was supposed to say. So you can imagine that it was probably a triumphant success for her to get that award. But it was also one of the worst nights of her life at the same time. And I'm sure that that could have been hard on anyone. And you really do feel sorry for Patty. And you really don't look at that clip anymore with such happiness. You kind of look at her and you're like, aw, she's so sweet, but yet so sad. I do want to talk a little bit about the relationship between Annie and Helen. I can sympathize with both of the characters. Helen makes you sympathize with her because the child needs help. But at the same time, she's spoiled to the point where it is ridiculous. And you understand why. But you also understand where Annie's coming from to the point where she needs to get through to Helen. And you're constantly rooting for Annie to get into Helen's head so that she knows what to do and how to communicate. And both work off each other very well. And it's just, all their scenes together are so great. And it's so wonderful to see them together. And it's really nice that they did the stage performance as well as the movie performance. Supposedly, the director, Arthur Penn, wanted Annie to begin with, even though the studio wanted bigger names. However, they weren't sure about Patty since she was going on 16 and the character of Helen was only supposed to be 8. But once you gotten Anne Bancroft, you had to get Patty. And I really do think Patty was perfect for the role. She does look like a child. She doesn't really look like a teenager. I'd say that she looks about 10 in the film, but when you see her, behind the scenes and stuff, or at least in the academy, you're really like, wow, she looks so grown up. And I do want to talk about the Melissa Gilbert movie for a second. Everybody's constantly saying how Melissa Gilbert was too old for the role. I can agree with that. But again, so was Patty. The difference was Patty had the emotional acting ability to bring that character to life that you had no question about it. Kind of like Judy Garland when she did the role of Dorothy. However, Melissa Gilbert, one, was too tall. I think that was an issue. 2, she didn't have that emotional acting ability to make you believe that she could play the part of Helen. She just wasn't Helen Keller. She just, I don't know, Laura Ingalls, blind and deaf. I'm sorry, but she was, well known for that role at that point. And just playing Helen Keller was an interesting role for her, but she wasn't the right casting. And Patty Duke did do a good job playing the role of Annie Sullivan, but at the same time, there's only one Annie Sullivan and one Helen Keller in my book. And that would be Anne Bancroft and Patty Duke. I can go on and on about this movie. I can talk about this movie all day. I love it. It's in my top 10 list. I definitely, if I had to rate it, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. I love this movie so much. Give it a go. If you have not seen this movie, please go see it. It is a wonderful film. You'll cry, you might laugh, and it really brings out a lot of emotions, out of you. But, yeah, that's it for this review of The Miracle Worker. Let me know in the comments below if you need or want any requests from me, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Have a great, wonderful day.